This is the Definitely Uncertain podcast, brought to you by Goldrock Capital. Each week, we look at how high net worth families can improve their lives, decisions, and investments in a deeply uncertain world. We always aim to provide practical information, even if we can't offer specific investment advice. Welcome, everybody. This is the Definitely Uncertain podcast, and my name is Darren Rockman, and I am a partner at Goldrock Capital, the 20-year-old multifamily office servicing families in Israel and around the world. And today on the podcast, I am very pleased to introduce Shahar Botzer. Shahar is the managing partner of Good Company, which is a company he will tell us a little bit more about later on. Shahar, welcome to Definitely Uncertain.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. And love the pictures behind you. That is quality art you've got sitting behind you.
I have 3 boys and they are very creative. It used to be an office and it became like a half a creation room in the corner.
Right. Okay. As everybody's children take over their work lives, it's part of the era we're in. So Shahar, I think what I'd like to do is to start off with your story because it's an interesting story and a somewhat unusual story, and maybe give us a couple of minutes on your background and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, I had a few very diverse micro careers. You could say I started at the age of 13. I'm sitting on a wheelchair. I have what's called spinal muscular atrophy. Since I was a child, and I found myself at the age of 13 appealing to the Supreme Court of Israel because the city where I grew up, the school wasn't accessible, and also other places. And so you could say that I learned how to be a change maker at a very early age, and there was a legal precedent on my name of Aaron Barak, the Supreme Court president, that for the first time in Israel defined the rights for equal rights for people with disabilities. And then in the army, I was in computers. I studied in Tel Aviv University, economy and accounting. Started like in EY, like a day or two, understood that it's really not for me to be an accountant. I was the chairman of the student union in Tel Aviv University. I was the CEO of the Actors Guild in Israel. I was running a placement and outsource company until I sold it. And I was the chairman of the board of a public traded company, East Alliance, in the field of real estate and tourism. And then 6 years ago, I found myself in the VC early stage world, running one of the first impact tech VCs in Israel.
Wow. So you're probably the youngest ever appellant to the Supreme Court in Israel. I don't know anybody or any case of somebody younger than 13 doing it. So I think you probably hold that record.
Might be. I must say that I never checked it, but it seems logical.
And it sounds like it's been only onwards and upwards since then. So Shahar, you mentioned impact investing. Let's maybe start there because it's a topic that we hear lots about, and it's become bigger and bigger trend over the last 10 years in the investment world. So let's start with how do you define impact investing? What does it mean for you? And maybe how's that changed over time?
Yeah, so as I said, 6 years ago, I met Yoel Cheshin and the Cheshin family. He decided he has two big group, he had few funds, and he had the vision that he wanted to start a fund that will do early stage, but will also measure the impact, the environmental and social impact that we'll do. And we met because I had a background in both sectors. Both of us didn't knew then the word impact. We like studied it together, and we raised the fund. And you, of course, were the founder and leading LP, but we brought another 10 other investors to be community. It really was the name. And I must say that my perspective of impact investing really changed because in the first year and a half, I really thought that it's a different profession. I thought that being an impact investor is a profession. And two things happened. One, we saw the deal flow and we allocated money and we understood that there is a big issue, especially in Israel, where the market is very, very developed, to reach to the best deals and the best founders. And they want to see that you have value more than just saying, I'm an impact investor and I will help you to do good, because they want to succeed. And the second thing is that during the time into the community, I was sent to studies. I went to studies in Oxford, the impact investing program, and then I met people that already doing it for more than a decade. So you could say like they have a different perspective of the market.
Right.
And then I understood that nowadays I feel that impact investing is not a profession; it's a state of mind. That's why I call myself a purpose-driven investor. I think that specifically in Israel, that there's maybe even a bad reputation already to the word impact because it's sometimes confused with an excuse for bad businesses. And what we did in To Be Community at the end, and we have a very good portfolio, and what we're of course doing now in Good Company, we'll speak about it in, more, is investing in companies that solve big problems and specializing in the specific domains. So
Okay.
if you will elaborate on it more.
Okay. So let's just go back to impact for a second, because it is a buzzword and it's still a buzzword. You identified some issues with impact investing. Maybe let's drill into what you saw as, apart from the excuse that sometimes impact investing gives people, fund managers, the ability to say, well, you didn't return that much money, but hey, you made an impact. What are some of the other key issues that you identified?
So I think a big issue is, especially in early stage, but not only. I saw it also in other asset classes. There's sometimes over focus on the measurement of the impact and
The impact measurement,
and the impact measurement, and not identifying what are the business KPIs that will indicate also the impact. And I saw that in a lot of companies, after you invest, if you are the only impact investor, so you find yourself in a problem in the board of directors, that you are the only one that asks about those KPIs. And sometimes even if the companies succeed, comes bigger investors than you, and they put it aside if there is a crisis like COVID. And so then you can find yourself in a mission drift, which is a very big issue in impact investing or impact mindset.
So a company that starts as an impact company focused, brings on funders that have that mindset, but as it grows up and succeeds, actually ends up moving away from impact and just becomes a regular.
That's why
company.
I think the two most important thing is, one is the intentionality, making sure that the founding team and the people that they hire, their first like C-level, is very passionate and sees the purpose of the company aside from just making money, and building the right culture. This is also why I'm very passionate about early stage, because this is the time of building the culture of the organization. And the second thing is what we call in Good Company North Star KPI, which is finding the main KPI of the business and making sure that it will also indicate that the company impact or solve the problem that you want to solve. And for us, if it's not like that, so we won't invest.
Okay. I suppose it's true also that the problem that you're focused in on is inherent all the way through the life cycle of a company, even to exit, because you can invest in an impact type company, but then it gets sold and the purchasers may take a very different view of the business and then stop driving it for impact and just drive it for profit.
So I think it might happen. It's a risk. You need to manage those risks, like you manage any other risk when you invest. So if you are professional, you know how to do the risk assessment and make sure that you pick the right companies. I think that at least us in the spaces that we specialize, which is future of work and education, circular economy, agriculture, digital health, and a bit also energy, those are spaces that you can find a lot of companies, I think even most of the companies, that their main KPI also solve a problem, and then you won't experience this mission drift.
Okay. So now let's focus on what you call purpose-driven investing. And it's all, as you say, about the KPI and how do you determine what the measurable outcome that you're trying to reach is. And that should last through the life cycle of the company from its early stages all the way to the end. So maybe give us a couple of examples of some of those KPIs that you've set for companies that you've invested in.
So let's go through our last 3 investments. So we invested in Bee Hero in agriculture. They solved the problem that 40% of the bees died every year, and nobody knows exactly why. So they do a pollination service as technology. They put an IoT device inside beehives and they monitor the condition there and making sure that the bees stay alive and in good health. And that way they also help the farmers to gain more from their field. So here you have a KPI that you check how much do they sell. They get like $10 per acre, but the ROI that they show the farmers, the bees don't die, and then they have much higher rates of pollination in the field.
So KPI is
sorry, yeah.
It sounds like here the KPI is core to the business model.
Definitely. Another investment is a tool in circular economy. So they offer landlords the opportunity to open in their building a room where you can rent any amenity that you don't really need to own. So it's from a vacuum cleaner, toolbox, chairs for hosting an event. I'm talking about like cities like Tel Aviv, New York, Amsterdam, Berlin, where the apartments are really small. And they actually, every time people rent from those rooms, it means that they didn't bought a vacuum cleaner. And now they're already reaching to the point where the manufacturers ask them to take their, for example, vacuum cleaners and put in the rooms and do shared revenue on the rents. So it will doing as more as they will succeed, there will be less production and more shared usage.
Anybody got a ping pong table yet, or that's not yet to come?
If there will be a demand, there will be a ping pong table.
Of course, there's a demand for ping pong. Okay.
Yeah.
So those are interesting. Yeah, you want to give a third example?
Yeah, I give that one more. I think in digital health, which is also a very, very interesting space. So we invested in a company called Feel Better that solved the problem of polypharmacy. People that take more than five or more medicines at the same time. So they experience a lot of time illness and even death. More than 7,000 people die in the US every year from a mismatch in the drugs treatment that they get. And now there's a new regulation that says that the health providers needs to give them every 6 months a report of making sure that there's no no mistakes in the medicine, the subscriptions they got. So
Right.
feel better knows to take the medical file and the blood test and also ask questions um, um, by a bot and then produce the risk assessment for the health providers and making sure they save lives and also
Okay.
do preventive care.
So the common
So here
thread, Shahar.
also one KPI.
So on one hand, you've got KPIs which are impact related, and then you have business ones. And what you're saying is, if I understand correctly, that you try and mold those two. So effectively, it's the same target, which is both the impact target and the business target. Do you see this as the future of impact investing?
So I must say, we see it as the opportunity. We see a very big opportunity. I think impact investing is a range from impact first funds that only promise like to preserve the value of the money and to maximize the impact, and to the other side of the range, which is profit with purpose. What we're doing,
Right.
which is like here, what we see Ido and myself, my partner and myself, is the opportunity to bring from Israel companies that has a complete alignment between their business KPI and their ability to solve big issues in specific domains that we believe Israel is relevant in terms of deal flow and the quality of the entrepreneurs and knowledge. And and I think the at least in the this side of the range, which is the profit with purpose, um, thinking in terms of a single bottom line and not looking for a double bottom line with different KPIs and different measurement is, I believe, this is the opportunity and this is the future. And I do believe that the next Zoom and the next Waze and the next Mobileye will be from companies that thinks that in that specific way, in purpose driven, and
Right.
they have a lot of advantages.
Right. And it gets away from the challenges you were talking before about measuring the impact bottom line.
Yeah, so I think nowadays big companies they all measure. Also, they're all adapting now sustainability. We wrote articles about that. My partner wrote an article about that, and they're
Right.
not doing it because they became like a tree huggers. They're doing it because they understand that the economy changed, but specifically in early stage where the business plan changes and there's pivots and it's like really navigating in rough waters. So sitting with the entrepreneurs at the like seed or A or B round and expecting them to have a measurement like a huge company of their sustainability is irrelevant because
Right.
everything will change anyway.
Yeah.
We need to allow
Okay.
them to be focused.
Right. Okay. Another part of what you're doing at Good Company is you have what you call the studio. So maybe tell us a little bit about that and what that brings to the companies and what that brings to you as an investor.
So as I said, we really believe in bringing value in the specific domains that we want to work in. So we took the 4 or 5 domains that we're working in, and we created an alliance in each domain with multinational corporates, with entrepreneurs that have the background in that specific, like second timers, entrepreneurs, and people that already succeeded, and also other funds, co-funds, because anyway, we always invest in syndication
Right.
with other funds that specialize in that specific domain. And part of what we're doing, we're not an incubator and we're not an accelerator, but we do help entrepreneurs reach the market, speak with a potential buyer or potential strategic partner, and it helps the entrepreneurs to reach to the market, and they have a very good reason to come and sit with us really early stage. And we have the opportunity to hear what the market is thinking about that specific solutions in terms of scalability and also timing.
Interesting. Very cool. Well, Shahar, thank you very much. That's really interesting, and seems that you're doing something new and exciting, and wish you all the best of luck with good company. And thank you. Thanks very much. And thanks everybody for listening. This is the Definitely Uncertain podcast, and look out for more episodes coming on a weekly basis into LinkedIn, YouTube, Apple iTunes, et cetera, et cetera. And if anybody wants to subscribe to the podcast, just send us an email to podcast@goldrockcap.com. Thank you.